What happens when you spend decades building a successful life only to realize it no longer feels like enough? George Jerjian knows what that feels like. He's a best-selling author, speaker, and Emmy award-winning producer whose work focuses on one of the biggest questions most people avoid until it's right in front of them. Who are you when work is no longer the thing that defines you? His perspective is not academic. It was shaped by a life-changing moment in his early 50s when he was wrongly told that he only had months to live. That experience forced him to confront something deeper than mortality. It forced him to confront meaning. Since then, George has devoted his work to helping people rethink retirement, purpose, and what it means to create a meaningful next chapter. Through books like Dare to Discover Your Purpose and Odyssey of an Elder, he challenges the idea that later life is about slowing down and replaces it with something far more demanding and far more hopeful: living with intention. And before we start the episode, a quick word from our sponsor, Deep Wealth and the Deep Wealth Mastery Program. Here's Bill, a graduate, who says the Deep Wealth Mastery Program has transformed the KPIs we're using to accelerate growth and profits. Or how about Emery, who says, and I love this, and I quote, the Deep Wealth Mastery Program helped me create the right mindset for both growing my business and later my future exit. I now know what questions to ask, what to do and not to do, which is priceless. The team and I have found dangerous skeletons and gaps that we're now addressing due to the Deep Wealth Program. Today, our actions have a massive ROI. Absolutely love that. And now, speaking of growth and adding value, check out what Bruce says. And I quote, as a business owner, I'm always looking for new programs, systems, CEO peer groups, and strategies to improve my business. Hands down, the Deep Wealth Mastery Program is the absolute best. I'm both growing my business and preparing for a future exit at the same time. It doesn't get any better. And I got to tell you, as I hear these testimonials, this is exactly why I do what I do. My mission, the team's mission here at Deep Wealth, is to literally change the social fabric of society, one business owner at a time and one liquidity event at a time. The Deep Wealth Mastery Program is the only one based on a 9-figure deal. And that deal, that was my deal. You know my story. I said no to a 7-figure offer. I created a system that we now call Deep Wealth Mastery, and that's exactly what helped myself and my business partners welcome from a different buyer, a different offer, a 9-figure deal. So if you're interested in growing your profits, preparing for a future liquidity event, whether that's 3 years away or 33 years away, and if you want to optimize your post-exit life, Deep Wealth Mastery is for you. Please email success@deepwealth.com. Again, that's success, SUCCESS, at deepwealth.com. We'll send you all the information about the Deep Wealth Mastery Program, otherwise known as the Scale for Ultimate Sales System. Better yet, why not hop on a complimentary strategy call? We'll see where you are at your business and what's standing between you and your financial independence and your dreams. So that's where you want to be. You want to be with other successful business owners, entrepreneurs, and founders just like you who are looking to create market disruptions. Whether you're a startup, whether you've been in business for 3 or 4 decades, whether you're manufacturing, whether you're high-tech, SaaS, low-tech, whatever the case may be, come on in and network with other business owners, with other businesses just like you, because they all want to lock in their financial freedom and enjoy both success and fulfillment. Again, the 90-day Deep Wealth Mastery Program, it has your name on it. All you need to do is take the next step. Please send an email to success@deepwealth.com. Deep Wealth Nation, welcome to another episode of the Deep Wealth Podcast. Well, Deep Wealth Nation, I am incredibly excited today because our guest, you heard it in the official introduction, he's a fellow founder, a post-exit entrepreneur, an author, a thought leader, and a whole lot more. And I'm going to dare you, Deep Wealth Nation, and pun intended on the dare, you'll know what I'm talking about in just a moment. I'm going to dare you on a couple of things in terms of your purpose and where you're at. And we're going to ask some questions that may make you feel uncomfortable, but it's for a terrific reason. You're going to learn all that and more, but I'm going to put a plug in it. George, welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast. An absolute pleasure to have you with us. There is always a story behind the story. What's your story, George? What got you from where you were to where you are today?
Thanks, Jeffrey. It's great to be on your podcast. To answer your question, what got me here? I think the answer's got to be a rendezvous with death. Now, there's nothing to wake you up like death. Now, what I'm saying, I'm not being morbid here. What I'm saying is that when you face death is when you realize what you're missing out of life that you're not really using. Because most of us are literally tiptoeing to a quiet death. We're not really engaged with what we love to do. And so what happened with me was I was diagnosed with a bone tumor in 2007. I was 52 years old. And the oncologist said to me that bone tumors are secondary cancers. And in 98% of cases, they will have spread through your body and you're looking at 6 months of life.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, my immediate reaction is that's not happening to me. I had an out-of-body experience and I looked at myself and I went, that's happening to you. That's our human reaction, is that this isn't real.
Yeah.
And the oncologist said that they had to do 3 weeks of testing to ensure that their diagnosis was correct. And so for 3 weeks, I was living under the sword of Damocles. Am I going to live? Am I going to die? And strangely, I wasn't afraid of death. And I think that's really weird. I was expecting to be like terrified. I'm being honest, right? But for some bizarre reason, I went into this sort of altered state. And the only thing that was really worrying me was that I was going to leave behind 2 teenage daughters. That was killing me. So that rendezvous with death me up. Luckily, 3 weeks later, the oncologist said to me, you know, he had good news and bad news. The good news was that I belonged to the 2% club. My tumor was localized in one place and it was benign. It wasn't malignant, but it was very aggressive. It had grown to the size of an eggplant sitting on my pelvis. So long story short, I had 6 months, had to be operated on, 2 operations to remove the thing. I had to learn how to walk again, but I wasn't angry or resentful that this has happened to me because I had a death sentence that was commuted to 6 months. So I was punching the air. And while I was convalescing, I studied philosophy online to keep myself, my emotional and mental well-being, and to keep learning. And I realized that a lot of things that I thought were important in life were actually not that important. So don't get me wrong, money is hugely important. It's energy, and I like money. I have no issues with money, but it's not the most important thing. It's a vehicle. And I realized that time was more important. And you only realize that when you run out of it.
Yeah.
So that's what kickstarted my new direction in life, if you like.
Wow, my goodness, that's quite the story. And thank you for sharing that. Before we go on and talk about what you've done since then and the lives that you've impacted and how you've made such a wonderful difference out there, let's go back. You hear the news. You don't quite know yet because you're at the beginning and they're doing all these tests behind the scenes. And our mind always jumps to the worst conclusion. And you're probably saying to yourself, okay, this is it. This is the final chapter. By hook or by crook, I'm out of here. Not by choice, but this is likely it. What was going through your mind at that time when you thought, well, okay, maybe I can get out of this, and hopefully I do, and that's certainly the intent, but if I don't, this might be it. I mean, what was that like for you at that point in time?
Such a good question. I think I was a little numb, to be honest with you. It took me a few days to recognize that this is really happening.
Yeah.
And it's happening to me, because normally it happens to other people.
That's right.
It doesn't happen to me. And that was hard to comprehend. But I recognized that this may be the end. In the mornings, I'd get up and I'd look outside my window across the river at the sunrise, and I'd go, how many of these am I going to see? How many more of these am I going to see? So you go nostalgic. You go for, oh my God, life is beautiful. And I was just so engaged with the running of life that I wasn't stopping and tasting things. And I promised myself if I made it through, I would change my life. I would change the way I approach it. I would enjoy each cup of coffee I have, as opposed to just drinking it because I need to drink it because I'm doing something else. That rushing around like a maniac to achieve, to accumulate, to do all that stuff, it's nonsense. We're not thinking when we do that. And I think in a sense, I was grateful for the life I'd had. I wasn't angry. I wasn't resentful, but I was still in a state of shock, in a state of, oh my God, I'm going to miss this life. And there was times where I would say, God, why me? Why me? There's lots of other people.
And George, right now, I want you and I to speak very directly to someone in Deep Wealth Nation. They're just going about their day. And I'm going to put myself in this boat as well. If I were to go back to any one of my very fortunate, one of my many days on this journey called life, I'm focused on the day ahead, the challenges, the problems, and everything else, not realizing what's there. And better for worse, usually it's for worse. I'm taking it for granted. Hey, I'm going to be here tomorrow and the day after and the day after that. And my biggest challenge is, if it's business wise, am I going to get this deal? Is my company going to grow? Am I going to hit my KPIs and my goals? And we all take it for granted, especially when it comes to our health, until one day, without our control, it goes away. So for someone in Deep Wealth Nation, and I suspect that's most of the people in Deep Wealth Nation who are in that mindset, on that trajectory, what would you tell them right now, with you having been there, where the day before, hey, yeah, maybe life's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And tomorrow, the next day, I'll figure things out. I've got time. I've got some runway ahead of me, until you heard you may not. What would you tell Deep Wealth Nation about that, of how they're living their life right now? If they had one takeaway from that moment the doctor said, hey, George, not looking so good. At the very best, you may only have 6 months left.
Well, that's a really good question, but I think you have so many people in your audience who are at different stages of their lives that I think the kind of only common denominator that I could offer that everybody would be able to receive would be something like, make each day count. What do I mean by that? Okay, all these platitudes are great, but what's the essence of what I'm trying to share with you is, think of each day as a lifetime. Don't take it for granted that you're going to make it by the end of today. Think about that. If you take each day as it comes, like you're grateful first thing in the morning, you're awake. And by the evening, you want to go to bed grateful about your day, the good, the bad, and the medium. Doesn't matter. The point is that you make each day count. You make each encounter with other people, pleasant or unpleasant. Don't let what's coming at you define how you feel, if that makes sense. In other words, contain yourself in a container where you don't allow other people's crap to affect you. Easier said than done, but if you're aware of it, you have boundaries that allow you to cope with that and just suck the juice out of life in a beautiful way, with the people you work with, your family, with friends, and even people that you don't get on with. They've got another story. They've got a journey, a challenge, whatever it is, maybe a kind word. You just don't know what that will bring. You could end up having a business or getting into business with somebody because you help them out when they're not in a good place.
And I would imagine, George, as you're sharing this with us, and just before we start jumping into all the wonderful things that you've been doing since then, that going into this, what at the time may have felt like your biggest problem, oh, woe is me, look at this, look at me, and have some pity on me, world, because this is really tough, that really in the blink of an eye, you're now saying, I only wish I had that problem a millisecond ago, because now what I'm facing is of so much more magnitude and so much more meaningful, not in the best way, that what I wouldn't do to have my biggest problem come right back, and that's my only problem that I'm facing. Thoughts about that?
Well, I actually take the reverse of that, which is that I'm actually grateful for what happened to me. It woke me up. It woke me up from just, you're in business, you have clients, you have employees, you got things going on, and all these are consuming you, right? Energetically, they're consuming you. And so you have very little time to be idle. You have very little time. And also the guilt that goes with being idle. Let me tell you, all right? I don't feel guilty so much nowadays. But the other thing is, the difference now is from the work I did before and the work I do now is that I am just so passionate about what I do. Before, it was about making money, achieving things, the usual stuff that we all do. It's part of growing up. But beyond that, it's about doing something that you love to do that is in service to other people, where you're serving people.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to sleep at night feeling good, fulfilled. That's the lesson of moving past exiting your business, is finding the person that you would like to be, the person that you were meant to be. But that's work, because you have to go on an adventure internally, discover who you are, as opposed to the chiseled perfection that we have created for the world to see outside of us, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And I love how you're looking at that. And you're so right, because at the time, what seems like the worst possible thing for us, our darkest hour, our darkest moment, when we look back at it, hey, that was the best thing that could have happened to me, because that made me who I am today. And
Exactly.
you haven't quite said it this way. I don't think I'm putting words in your mouth when I say that, looking back at that now, this was your wake-up call. This was,
Absolutely.
okay, I've got a second kick at the can here, and I am now going to make the most of the life that I've been given, that perhaps unintentionally I didn't make the most of before. I took for granted, or my mind wasn't focused. I'm going to be now in the present. And since then, you've done some really wonderful and incredible things when it comes to mindset, when it comes to having, especially founders and entrepreneurs, really get out of their dream state, wake up and, okay, why am I here? What am I doing? What's my purpose? What's this going to look like for me? So I know dare, and I use that word very intentionally at the beginning. So the word dare is a big part of what you're doing, and with some of your books, your programs, your coaching. Walk us through that. What would you want us to know?
Okay. Dare is another word for courage. All right. And that's an attribute that is so much more important than people realize. And it's gone out of vogue. It's out of fashion. We're so focused on security and reducing risk that we forget sometimes we need to take a leap of faith. We need to have courage to do something that we would not normally do because of our programming, minimizing risk, increasing revenue, which is all good stuff. But essentially, when you come to this next stage of life, it's life's way of giving you a last chance, knocking on your door saying, last chance to live the life you were meant to live before the bell rings. Now, dare is courage. And courage is something you need in where I teach my clients when they sell their business or they retire. What are they going to do now? Apart from the honeymoon period, which is wonderful, everything goes south after that. Because unless you've got something meaningful that you're doing, something that makes you jump out of bed in the morning, you're slowly drifting into oblivion. You just need to look around you. Dementia, Alzheimer's. Why are these people losing their minds? Because they've stopped to live. And if we're not growing, we're dying. So DARE is not just a word for courage. It's also an acronym for discover, assimilate, rewire, and expand. Most people retiring at 65, and I'm just throwing a number out there, they still have another 20, possibly 30 years to go. Slowing down, getting smaller is not the answer. You need to change your mindset, because your existing mindset is not going to allow you to cross over into this new territory. Just think about that. I'll use Carl Jung's saying, which was, what was true in the morning of life becomes a lie in the evening. What was true in the morning of life becomes a lie in the evening. What did he mean? Well, in the morning of life, it's all about ambition, accolades, achievements. In the evening of life, it's the reverse. It's about living a legacy, not leaving, but living it, having a meaningful life and doing something that you're passionate about. So you're mentally and emotionally engaged. That's the antidote to dementia and Alzheimer's, or certainly to pushing it out as far as possible.
Absolutely. And what's interesting about that, as we're talking about this, George, again, this may be a data point of 1, 2, 5, or 10. I know in my own circles, either through people that I know or people that I know who know people, when they talk about retirement, and we're going to get to your latest book in just a moment, but when they talk about retirement, I hear so often, Jeffrey, I don't want to retire. I don't want to be doing nothing. I want to have a purpose when I get out of bed each day, because when I look around at those who have retired, they've dropped dead within a year or two of the retirement. And that's the irony. So many people are, well, when I retire, I will do this or that. I'm going to sacrifice. I will hold off on doing certain activities because I'll save it when I retire. And then the day comes where they retire and here today, gone tomorrow, or heaven forbid something happens on the health side that they can no longer do what they want to do. And by the way, Deep Health Nation, when you go to the show notes, in there, you're going to have a link for all of the books that George has masterfully written. Dare to Discover Your Purpose, Retire, Refire, Rewire. Pick up that one, as well as all the others. There are some treasure troves in there. And I love what you've done, George, because you go through the different phases here, your different pillars, if you will. So discover, assimilate, rewire, expand, just like you spoke about with us right now. And I love how you phrased it, the retirement rebellion. So talk to us about the retirement rebellion. What's going on there?
Okay. Thank you. That's a great question. You mentioned earlier in our conversation, I think even possibly before we started the recording, about reinvention. And in a sense, it comes back to that Carl Jung thing. What was true in the morning of life becomes a lie in the evening. In other words, the mindset we have as we grow and accumulate and our ambition is fulfilled is not the attributes you need in the next stage of life. Mm-hmm. And so it's about growing. And in a sense, this next stage of life, you're going to be more in line with who you really are, in essence, right? As opposed to what you've learnt to be. Our minds are programmed from a young age. We think we're in control and the inner dialogue in our heads is ours, but it's not. It was programmed for us by our parents, educational system, culture, etc. And in a sense, the second stage of life is where you're going to come into your own, you're going to become comfortable in your own skin. You won't have to pretend anymore. You just be you, if you can imagine. Now, that needs a rebellious mindset. And hence the retirement rebellion is that a lot of people understand that retirement isn't what it's made out to be. Mm-hmm. But it's so ingrained in our culture that we feel, well, we've worked hard enough now, we can just chill out. Yeah, but that's called a vacation. Your life's not over. Your work, what you were working at may be over, but your life goes on. And mm-hmm. What are you going to do with your rest of your life? And I talk about the American poet laureate, Mary Oliver, who said, mm-hmm. What will you do with your one wild and precious life? Your game is not over yet. What you've achieved up to now, up to this point of retirement, at whatever age that is, 50, 55, or 60, 65, 70, doesn't matter. Don't wait to retirement. You need to be thinking about what you're going to do. And you're not just going to think about it, you're going to feel about it. You're going to explore. Now, what is in our mind is we're such copycats as humans. We just, as a sponge, we suck everybody else's ideas and dreams and we think it's ours. Like, my precious. It's not ours. We need to find what's really true to us, because you don't want to get to your deathbed and think, I didn't live the life I wanted. That would be a tragedy. Mm-hmm. So think of this time in your life as the last opportunity to do something really worthwhile, something that you love to do, something meaningful, and something that helps the people around you.
And as you're talking about this, George, I know this is not some theory that's taught in the classroom. This is coming from the trenches. This is coming from your own experiences, from the other founders, entrepreneurs, and generally speaking, people that you've helped as well. And you've gone out there, you've asked questions, you've surveyed, if memory serves, over 21,000 retirees about what's going on with them. When you finished your survey, that's a huge number of people. What surprised you the most with that? What did you learn that was, oh, wow, never saw that coming?
Well, that's such a good question. Such a good question. Jeffrey, I'll tell you, I was shocked in so many ways. There were 9 questions, demographic, psychographic, you name it. But essentially, one of the main thrusts of the questions was, what is your single biggest challenge in retirement? And let's not forget, this was done in 2020, 2021, right in the middle of the pandemic. So I was expecting money to be the big issue, right?
Sure.
50% said health issues were their number one challenge in retirement. The second highest number was 35% for outliving my savings. Interesting, right? Outliving my savings. And the third one, around 15%, was aimlessness. No. 2 questions later, I pivoted that same question. I said, if you had a magic wand, which issue would you address first? 50% said health again. But this time, 36% said finding a new purpose. So great survey, more than any insurance companies do. They do 9,000 questionnaires and they survey and they think that's enough. But I ticked all the boxes. I received this, collated it, but there was something missing. I knew there was something missing and I couldn't put my finger on it until I came across a quote from Henry Ford, who had said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Think about it. Faster horses. So I realized I'd asked people what they thought was the issue, the challenge in retirement. They told me what they know, but they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So I had to go back to the drawing board again. So this is where not allowing yourself to be deceived because you've ticked all the boxes and not thinking deeper. You need to go under the skin. And what I discovered was that just like truth is the first casualty in war, as we can see now, the first casualty in retirement is identity. Who am I now? And for your audience, selling a business, exiting a business, it's not just the money. There's a part of them that's going to die. Their identity is so tied into the business, right? So this is why I say that our identity with work is integrated. There's a scaffolding. The work keeps our identity up. When the work comes out, the identity crumbles. And I say that my DARE method, what I do is I hold up the scaffolding. When you've sold your business, you've exited. Now what you're going to do is the DARE method helps you go through this next stage to find out what is it I want to be doing in this next stage of my life. Who do I want to be? Now, some people think our personalities are written in stone, unchangeable. That's an illusion. We have many personalities. Psychologists will tell you that normal people have up to 30 personas. So go figure that out.
Yeah, my goodness, there is so much there. And while we're speaking about this, Deepak Nason, when you go again to the show notes, again, in the links are you're going to find George's books. Another book that we're going to talk about right now, and I'd encourage you to pick it up, Odyssey of an Elder, which is an interesting title, George, in and of itself. And in that book, my goodness, you put everything on the table. You're very vulnerable. You talk about the dissolution of your marriage after, I want to say, 40 plus years with your wife and how that was making you feel both personally and then what you had done with that. Talk to us about the book. And it's a fascinating journey and the story that you write about it. It feels like we're right there with you. But high level, walk us through it. For those in Deepak Nation yet who haven't had a chance to pick up the book and read it, what are some of the takeaways that you want us to know about that?
Thank you for that question, Jeffrey. Odyssey of an Elder came about because I was teaching people to find new ways to look at themselves and to look at what they would like to do. Travel, first of all, makes you humble because you're in a new place. You don't know things. So you're very humble. And you have to ask people for help. And so that's a good place to be because that's a beginner's mindset. And that's what you need when you're in this state of exploration. Because by the time you reach 60, 65, the delusion we have is we know everything now. or as close to that as possible. But again, that's an illusion, and it's a delusion as well. And the way to get rid of that is to go and see oneself from the outside in a different place. We're too comfortable where we live. We're very grounded. We're lord of the manor, so to speak. But when we travel, humility has to come with us. And in that humility, we're able to see different perspectives. And this time, the travel isn't a vacation. It's really a learning process. How do different cultures do things? So I wanted to help. Well, I was encouraging my clients to go traveling, even next door, just away from your home, away from your comfort zone, so you can see things differently. And I thought, well, George, you're recommending this, but you're not walking your talk. So I thought, I've got to do one of these. And I started thinking about it. When I was a kid, I fell in love with a book called Around the World in 80 Days.
Yes.
By Jules Verne, which I'm sure everyone's read. And I fell in love with it. And I wanted to travel the world, but life got in the way. And so I thought, this is probably my last opportunity, because I was 69 when I was planning this. Mm-hmm. And I was already having issues getting insurance cover, because insurance people, right, they want you to travel to a destination and come back, and they'll insure you for that one. Yeah. But if you're going to go tripping around the world, they're going, oh my God, he's going to fall over. We're going to have to, it's going to cost us a flight back for him, maybe even a medical flight back. Insurance companies don't take stupid risks. Mm-hmm. So I realized if I waited another year, I would be uninsurable. So I had to take it. And the more I delved into this, the more I realized how complex the whole package was. I have not used a travel agent in 20 years. I went to an expert travel agent that was sort of kind of bespoke to create my own plan of going around the world. And I selected the countries that I wanted to see, that I'd never been to before. And so I went to South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and Canada. And that literally circumnavigated the world. But it wasn't just about seeing sites that I may never see again. A safari in South Africa, going to the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, flying over the Southern Alps in New Zealand, or traveling by train for 3 weeks in Japan, which was unbelievable, or experiencing the majesty of the Rocky Mountains in Canada. So there's all sorts of stuff, but I was also looking and observing about life and culture and how people do things differently. But in essence, the travel, the Odyssey, was what I don't know if you've heard of Paulo Coelho, who wrote The Alchemist.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, wonderful book.
Yeah, and essentially it's about somebody who travels, he experiences things he would never have experienced, and he comes back, he's a changed person, and the city that he lived in has changed to him because his perspective has changed. And so Paulo Coelho talks about the journey is not about becoming something, it's about unbecoming everything that is not really us, so that the real us can emerge.
Yeah, as we're sitting with that, as you're sharing that with us, it really gives a lot to think about. It's always been there. Almost reminds me of Michelangelo, who's looking at that slab of stone. And to us, it's just one big block of stone, not remarkable, just like any other rock that's there. But in his mind, he's seeing what's always been there. It's just waiting to be chiseled away, to show its glory, its magnificence, its presence. And so if I can equate that back to what you're sharing with us, yeah, that's already within us right now. It needs, or we need, the right circumstance, the right setting for us to really come forth of what's always been there. Perhaps it's just been hidden or covered or any number of things, but it's a great segue into mindset, because that's really what you're known for and what you're all about.
That's a beautiful metaphor, Jeffrey. Yeah, that Michelangelo thing is perfect. Perfect.
So you traveled around the world, you had experiences, you potentially were going to be here one day, not the next day. Oh, made a mistake, and actually it's okay. You are going to be here, God willing, for many other days. And so now let's take that back to mindset, because I know It's right under your tagline on your website, mindset mentor, writer, speaker. And you're doing all of these things specifically, though, from one founder to another founder, because I believe a founder's mindset, a founder's personality, it's different. It's not better, it's not worse, different than the general population. So your journey, which has been quite a varied journey, and particularly most recently, when it comes to mindset, and now we're speaking directly to Deep Wealth Nation, and in Deep Wealth Nation, as founders, we're so caught up in, okay, I got to hit these KPIs. Here are my goals. This is where I'm not. This is where I want to be. And we're so focused on that we are intentionally blurring everything else out. So let's take a step back. We're going to pause for just a moment on all of that. We're now listening to you, George. When it comes to the mindset of a founder, from your journey, from your insights, from your self-discoveries, what would you want us to know?
I think the first thing that I had to get rid of in my head when it came to mindset is not being influenced by what other people think. We are so trained culturally to be aware and to adapt and adopt what other people think, because we give such importance to what other people think. And we don't give enough awareness or enough, what's the word I'm looking for? We don't give enough respect to our own opinions and thoughts. We care more about what other people think. And I'm talking about people who are influential in our lives, so to speak. Does that make sense? I'm
Absolutely.
talking about not just parental, I'm talking about spousal and even children. And so it's about recognizing boundaries, recognizing that I need to be able to stand on my own feet and on with my own ideas and my own thoughts, and not compromise it to fit in with what other people think. So that's the kind of first mindset. The second mindset I would talk about is a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. A fixed mindset is, for example, somebody says, I can't do this, right?
Okay.
We all come across that, right? I can't do this. A growth mindset is, I can't do this yet. That word yet pivots you from this is impossible to this may be possible. And the third thing is fear. Now, we humans, fear is indelibly tied into our lives because from the get-go, we've been told, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And so, ultimately, you're in a little sandbox and we spend the rest of our lives trying to come out of that sandbox. But there was a guy called Joseph Campbell, an American mythologist, who wrote about the hero with 1,000 faces. And he said, the cave we fear to enter holds the treasure we seek. Now, on the face of it, you'd think about a normal cave, but I translate that to this cave, the cavern, right? We're afraid to go in, play around with it. It makes us afraid because it will change the dynamics of our relationship with other people around us. Mm-hmm. So, for example, in my case, my wife and I, we married for 40 years. And then about 7-8 years ago, we started drifting apart. Drifting apart, not because of anything else, but our way of thinking was changing. All right. There's still a lot of love there. We have 2 wonderful daughters, and our relationship is amicable, and we're still together. But the reason the divorce happened is because our minds were changing. We were developing in a different way. And staying in the marriage boxed us because there was comfort in being inside that box. It's normal. You're in a long-term relationship. Everything is, you've adapted, you've changed, and you've grown old together. But there's no room for movement here. Now, the marriage wrapper, shrink wrapper as I call it, snapped. But our 40-year relationship did not. And it gave us the room we needed to be able to expand and still be together. Now, that's a mindset change. The trust is still there. The relationship is still there. It's just the certificate isn't, because the shrink wrapper broke. It didn't allow either of us to grow. Now, I'm not sure if this is making sense to you, but this was just my journey. I'm not saying this is what other people should be doing, but I'm giving you a living example of how we are very fearful of going into the cave, because changing a mindset can bring pain with it.
Sure. Well, the human condition, our minds, and by the way, Deep Wealth Nation, as George is talking, when he says into the cavern, into the cave, he's pointing towards his head himself, our mind going within. And more so today with our smartphones and social media and all the distractions around us, difficult more so today than ever because there's really no more boredom if you don't want there to be. It's so easy to get distracted. Oh, I can go on my phone, or I can watch this latest movie or the show anywhere where I am. I have instant access to that more so than ever. We don't have that time alone, that quote unquote boredom, which is really a great exercise for our minds and to have that kind of discipline. And what's been coming through loud and clear to me, George, and I know people in Deep Wealth Nation, you may be saying, Jeffrey, George, wow, you've been all over the map here. What's the common thread here? And before we go into wrap-up mode, for me, the common thread here that you've been talking about, George, it's having a mindset that can prepare us to welcome anything that comes into our life, even if we may not be ready for it, don't have any experience with it. I have the mindset that can take that on. Because here's what I know, George, and behind the scenes offline, I shared with you, we are putting together our 90-day Deep Wealth Mastery health program, because health is our first wealth. And if we don't have health, then our business is going to suffer. Our personal life is certainly suffering. Our loved ones, all of our stakeholders in business and in life will suffer when our health is not there. And science is now confirming what we've known for ages, is even back in the Bible. It's not normal, quote unquote, normal for people to be passing away at 70 years of age, 80 years of age, even 90 years of age. It should be at least 120 years of age, if not more. But we've just become accustomed to, well, just got old. They lived a good life at 80 or 85, and it was time for them to go. Not really. It's almost midlife for them from what we're talking about here. And so from that mindset perspective of what you're speaking about, really where I am now, I have a lot of runway ahead of me. And retirement, that doesn't mean I'm put out to pasture. It's a new chapter for me. Let my ambition grow. Let my goals grow. And so is it possible, a bit of a rhetorical question, is it possible that at the age of 80 or 90, I am more ambitious than I was at 30 or 60 or 50? The answer should be yes to that. At least for me, it is. I would hope that the answer is going to be yes. So I love what you're doing on the mindset side of things that preparing us. And before we do go into wrap-up mode, if someone in Deep Wealth Nation, hearing our fireside chat, George, if they were to do one thing coming out of this episode before they go into the next activity, their call, meeting, whatever it's going to be, if they could do one thing, that would be, wow, I loved what I just did. I'm coming out feeling great. What a difference it made. George was right with this. To put you on the spot, what would be one low-hanging fruit that someone in Deep Wealth Nation could do coming out of our time together, out of this episode, that could really make a difference for them?
I think the theme here has been fun, so I'm going to give it fun.
Let's do it.
All right. This is completely left field. I would say to you, go to your wardrobe and look at every single item in your wardrobe and declutter by asking the question, when was the last time I wore this shirt or jacket or trouser or skirt or whatever it is? And if you haven't worn it in the last year, put it down. That's going to go to charity. And go through the whole thing. So you're only choosing things that you're actually using. Mm-hmm. Most of the other stuff that you have, you may have paid good money for it, and that's why you're not inclined to get rid of it. But declutter, because decluttering physically also starts to declutter you in the mind. Now, on a last note, I'd say when we reach this stage of life, we need a software update. That's what the mindset change is about. The software you had is obsolete. It's not going to serve you going forward. You need a new software update. And that is what I do. And so I reach out to you, Jeffrey, and to your audience, and I leave it to you about, I would be happy to do a course, a specialized course for Deep Wealth audience with you involved, Jeffrey. So I leave that with you.
Okay, why don't you quickly talk about that before we go into wrap-up mode? Because offline, you had some interesting ideas. And at the very end, I am going to ask where people can get in touch with you, and you can share that at that time. But what would you want Deep Wealth Nation to know of what you're thinking, of how you want to make a difference for them?
Well, I'd like to keep this under the Deep Wealth umbrella, okay, because I have many others, and I don't want to mix and match because it's too complex.
Mhm.
But if deep wealth organized, perhaps 12 people, or if there's a lot of interest, up to 20 people maximum, to do an 8-week course. Each session is 90 minutes.
Mhm.
I do a presentation for 20 to 30 minutes, and we spend an hour working on the exercises each week that end up on the 8th week. You end up with one sheet focused on what your next stage in life is going to be. So you've got a skeleton to work with to take you to the next stage, to give you that software update that you need.
Absolutely love that. In Deep Wealth Nation, you will have a chance at the end to reach out to George and myself, and you can contact us and, hey, yeah, where do we begin? I want to throw my hat in the ring, or any questions that you have. But let's put that in the virtual parking lot, George, because we are bumping up against some time and we're going to go into wrap-up mode here. It's a tradition where it's really my privilege, my honor here on the Deep Wealth Podcast. I ask the same question to each guest. And it's a fun question. Let me set this up for you. When you think of the movie Back to the Future, you have that magical DeLorean car that will take you to any point in time. So, George, it's tomorrow morning, and this is the fun part. You look outside your window, not only is the DeLorean car curbside, the door's open, it's waiting for you to hop on in, which you do. And you're now going to go to any point in your life. George, as a young child, a teenager, whatever point in time it would be, what would you tell your younger self in terms of life lessons or life wisdom? Or, hey, George, do this, but don't do that. What would it sound like?
Oh my God, that sounds very difficult. Wow. I think I'd take the car back to 1960s and I would, going back from now, I would know where to put my money in. And I would never have to worry financially again.
I love that. So you're almost like Marty McFly, and you have that book that has all the outcomes of, it was horse racing, I believe, or some other sporting events, or maybe football, maybe just a sports almanac that had all the different scores that had happened. And you're like, okay, George, you go put this over here and that over there, invest over there and there. And so you're financially set. What would that do for you, though, when you're doing that? It's a means to an end. So
Yes.
What's the end for that for you? What would that be achieving for you?
Well, I would be borrowing against it back then.
Yes.
So I'd be fine. Okay. I'd only be doing things I love to do. That would be the difference.
Uh-huh. And perhaps that's what you tell yourself. Hey, George, do only the things that you love to do.
There you go.
That's the wisdom right there. And hear that, Deep Wealth Nation? Do only the things that you love to do. George, I'll share a very quick story. Deep Wealth Nation is familiar with this. When I was growing up, I was young. I was about to go into university. Didn't know anything about anything. All I know is I wanted to be rich. And at the tender age of 15 or 16, I said, okay, how, Jeffrey, are you going to become rich? And what did I know? The internet wasn't around back then. It wasn't as easy to see what's out there in the world. And I said, well, I have this neighbor. He's a dentist. He looks pretty rich. I'm going to become a dentist. Not because I love dentistry, not because I love the sciences. I just thought, well, I just want to become rich, so I'll just become a dentist. And I got to tell you, George, my first year was a disaster. I was failing courses. I think my chemistry professors, they passed me because they felt so bad for me. I was spending hours in extra help and coming in and asking questions, and I just wasn't cutting the grade. Thankfully, I had the good sense in second year to leave the sciences, to leave pre-medicine, pre-dentistry, and go into business. The rest is history, as they say. And it was only then when I chased my passion that the money followed, not the other way around. So do what you love is some great advice. And someone in Deep Wealth Nation, they want to speak with you, George. They have a question for you. Perhaps you become their mentor, their coach, or even having these only in Deep Wealth sessions that you've been talking about. Where's the best place online to reach you?
My website, georgejerjian.com.
And Deep Wealth Nation, it does not get any better. It's all in the show notes. It's a point and click. Do me a favor, Deep Wealth Nation. Reach out to George, have that conversation, ask him the questions. Offline, I had the privilege of speaking with George, and my goodness, we could have gone on and on. He's a lot of fun to speak with, full of wisdom and insights. All that said, George, it's official. This is a wrap. Congratulations. And as we love to say here at Deep Wealth, may you continue to thrive and prosper while you remain healthy and safe. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeffrey, and likewise.
So there you have it, Deep Wealth Nation. What did you think? So with all that said, and as we wrap it up, I have another question for you. Actually, it's more of a personal favor. Did you find this episode helpful? Have you found other episodes of the Deep Wealth Podcast empowering and a game changer for your journey? And if you said yes, and I really hope you did, I have a small but really meaningful way that you can actually help us out and keep these episodes coming to you. Are you ready for it? The dramatic pause. I'll just wait a moment. Drum roll, please. Subscribe. Please subscribe to the Deep Wealth Podcast on your favorite podcast channel. When you subscribe to the Deep Wealth Podcast, you're saving yourself time. Every episode automatically comes to you. And I want you to know that we meticulously craft every one of our episodes to have impactful strategies, stories, expert insights that are designed to help you grow your profits, increase the value of your business, and yes, even optimize your post-exit life and your life right now, whatever you want that to look like. And every time you subscribe and a fellow entrepreneur subscribes, it's a testament to how together, yes, we are changing the social fabric of society. One business owner at a time, one liquidity event at a time. So don't let the momentum stop here. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast channel. You'll never miss an episode. You'll be the first to hear from the top industry leaders, the innovators, the disruptors that are really changing and shaping the business world. And maybe you're commuting, maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're taking a well-deserved break that we spoke all about on this episode. The Deep Wealth Podcast, it's your reliable source for the next big idea that could literally revolutionize your business. So once again, please hit that subscribe button, stay connected, inspired, and ahead of the curve. And again, your next big breakthrough moment, it might just be one episode away. Maybe it was even this episode. So all that said, thank you so much for listening. And remember, your wealth isn't just about the money in the bank. It's about the depth of your journey and the impact that you're creating. So let's continue this journey together. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And as we love to say here at Deep Wealth, may you continue to thrive and prosper while you remain healthy and safe. Thank you so much. God bless.